Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2002 movie from Gus Van Sant, Gerry. Now you might be asking yourself, well, why Gerry? Isn't this a horror movie review channel? And I would say, well, yes, it is. And then you might equally say, well, isn't Gerry not in any way, shape, or form a horror movie? And I would say, well, no, it's not. Well then, why would you be reviewing this movie on your channel? Well, I would say because this time it's personal. It actually is personal for me. This is the first time in my channel, and I don't know about the only time, but certainly the first in which I have purposefully tackled a non-horror movie for review, outside of an April Fool's Day thing. And the reason for that is because I have a very good friend of mine. I've known him for longer than I care to admit, well over 10 years, and he is not a horror movie fan. He's been excited for me to do this whole YouTube thing for the last several years. He's been right by my side, rooting for me, but none of my videos really ever appeal to him. And this is a movie that is near and dear to his heart, mostly because he always sees it as a challenge. Literally, a challenge. He will challenge people that if you watch this movie, and this is not an open offer to the internet, by the way, just, he's mentioned this to a few of our select friends. If you watch this movie all the way through, he will buy you a meal because that's how much he found this movie unwatchable and boring. And he's been dying for me to deliver my movie critic chops to the review of this film. And after several years, I'm finally going to get down to it. So, here we go. This one's for you, Adrian. So in this movie, we have two young men, both named Gerry, played by Casey Affleck and Matt Damon, as they go on a road trip together out to the desert to undergo a little hiking expedition, and they get lost. End credits. That really is about it. This is a movie that is very unique. It is a perfect example of what's called non-narrative filmmaking. This really doesn't have a whole lot of story to it. How I described it is not really that much of an exaggeration as far as what the content of this movie is. I haven't spoiled the ending, but I've spoiled 95% of the film for you. They go out to the desert and get lost. They wander around, they talk to each other, they continue to get more lost, and that is all their movie really is. There's no real character development, no real conflict outside of man versus nature, no real anything except for them wandering around. Pretty much everything that everybody that hated Lord of the Rings that accused it of being, this actually is. And this is one of the reasons, this is the main reason that Adrian finds this movie so intolerable and boring. However, I am coming to this movie's defense. I really did. The first time I tried to watch it, I fully admit I fell asleep. But I did watch it somewhat recently to do this review, and I made it for me, it was a little bit of a challenge. I was thinking, okay, well, he has this movie that's kind of his grand high pumbaa of what he considers to be the worst movie ever or the most intolerable movie ever. Well, shit. I've seen all 13 Puppet Master movies. I've seen the Uncorked logo more often than I can possibly care to admit. How in the world would I fare against this? And actually, what I found it to be was lackluster in any kind of story sense, but gorgeous in every other sense. Now, Gus Van Sant set out to make a very long shot movie. A lot of these scenes will go on for several minutes at a time, not really showing anything. It'll be a headshot, a silhouette shot of Matt Damon or Casey Affleck walking against the background, and it will hold that shot for 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time. For a movie that has 100 minutes of runtime, this movie has 100 cuts to it. This averages out at a solid 60 Mississippis every cut. And Van Sant was largely inspired by Hungarian filmmaker Béla Tarr in making this movie. And for the grand panoramic views of the desert that we had and watching the characters walk there, it was phenomenally beautiful. It was a gorgeous spectacle to behold and very daring on a filmmaking level to go through this and have such long shots and have such little actual plot happen. Now, would you call this pretentious? Would you call this beautiful? For me, I called it both. And it wasn't at the same time. I hopped from one foot to the other as I was watching this movie probably 36 times. Every time I found it beautiful, a shot would go on so long that I was just checking out. But then the next one would happen and it would be equally gorgeous and I would have some newfound appreciation for it. So I was constantly all over the place with this movie as I was watching it. But I think I did find a lot of the beauty in there, and I really do appreciate this film on a technical level, even if not on a storyline level. And so at this point, you know the deal. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the scores here. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And I really want to talk about the intent category here specifically because I could see what Gus Van Sant was trying to do. I could see what was being put down. I could see the inspiration for Bilatar. I could see a lot of that. And again, I was just hopping from one foot to the other. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I was just constantly in this weird state of flux where sometimes I could appreciate it and sometimes it really was a bit excruciating. So this was a tough one for me to judge, especially on the intent category, but ultimately I did give it an 8 out of 25. It really didn't rise to the level of artistic greatness. Even though I did appreciate the beauty of it, it didn't resonate with me to the level that I think it was trying to. Ultimately, I did find it to be, although beautiful, extremely pretentious. And that's an opinion that could have me raked over the coals in the comments, and I'm fully expecting that, but I gotta speak my truth. This is simply how I felt while I was watching it. I can't really get around the big P word with this one, because like I said, it's my truth. It's just simply how I felt while I was watching this. And something being gorgeous and taking risks and so forth doesn't make it inherently quality. The technical, super high marks. I really, really loved every single shot of this until the shot wore thin. But like I said, by then it moved on to the next one and I was appreciating it all more. This was a fantastically beautiful movie. This was just vibrant and grand and sweeping the whole way through. And it is a beauty of a movie to behold in that regard. And on that level alone, I would absolutely recommend it. And so where does the movie wind up in its entirety? Well, in a weird place, but that makes sense for such a weird movie. I would recommend it just because of how beautiful it is, but a score of 49 out of 100 isn't exactly a glowing recommendation. So Adrian, I'm afraid I really didn't find the movie as excruciating as you do. I wouldn't put it up as a challenge for anybody to watch. If I were to try and fill that criteria there, boy, do I have some entries for that. As far as I will buy you a meal if you're able to sit through this, I have much, much better contenders than 2002's Gerry. And for anybody looking for an interesting perspective for non-narrative filmmaking with gorgeous sweeping shots of the desert, I really can't recommend this enough. This was a very interesting watch, and I think that everybody owes it to themselves to occasionally sit down and try something out that's different. Try something out that is interesting. And even if it doesn't really resonate with you, you can still walk away from it just a little bit more well-rounded for the experience and hopefully appreciate it on at least some level. So thank you very much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday for my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie or any movie or a Gus Van Sant movie, sure, why not? Make sure that it's good and rotted.